Right, folks, today I am joined, of course, by Lex Fitness. Lex,
ruining the entrance with the phone going off.
No, you're
Just
okay.
the most anticlimactic thing. Someone, shut up about Cecil. We don't care about Cecil. My God.
Well, listen to this. I'm not somebody who kind of dwells on vanity metrics often, but I think for folks who are listening who maybe don't know who you are, or maybe thinking, who is this guy? What's his impact? And for folks who don't have the luxury of watching this on YouTube and seeing all the guns on display, you are a fitness trainer, fitness influencer, fitness content creator. You have over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, pretty much, I think something like 500,000 folks on Instagram. Before I go into kind of why you do what you do you ever sit back and consider the impact you're having on people?
Yeah, every day. Every day.
Right.
I get messages every day. And I read them and I reply to them and I respond. I'm very proactive in that front. So yeah, I'm very aware. I'm not aware in the fact that I go out of my way to have an impact. Does that make sense? I don't see myself in that way. I just do what I do and see that it has a positive impact. So I keep doing what I do.
Yeah. I find it interesting because I was talking to a friend about this the other day about people like you who create content, just wondering if they ever take time out to sit back and just kind of go, oh crap. Like, I imagine you started with a camera, you started recording yourself however long ago, and now there's over 1 million people who are like, yeah, I want more of that. I want to see more of that. I mean,
it's always been nice for me though, because I think a lot of people are online have a love and hate side to people. I've always had really lovely followers. So any interactions that I've had with them in real life or online, they're always massively positive. So for me, it's just been the feedback loop's really good for me because I put something out, somebody will respond telling me how that certain thing has helped, whether it be something silly or something serious. It doesn't matter what it is that you're putting out, as long as it's got a positive message, it catches people at certain times. And that's why I've never really aimed at a certain style. Like, you get people who are motivational speakers, are very direct and they have a very niche kind of avenue on what they're dedicated towards. I kind of don't do that. I just have fun, learn as I go along and impart what I found worked, what I found didn't work, and then just chuck it out there and hope that it helps people along the way as well for free. And that was always the goal, and that's always still been the goal. And because I never put anything negative out, and don't think I really ever have, even in controversial topics, I always kind of try and see both sides of situations.
Yeah.
Because of that, it's always just been this nice little organic pool that's grown. But there were moments in, like, especially through like the golden era of the fitness industry coming onto YouTube, where I would be in Top Man shopping, and then someone would come on a photo, and then there'd be a queue of 10, 15 people because that one person had approached me, and obviously I'd been recognised in Manchester, wherever it was, and obviously there was nobody else really doing what I was doing at that time. So those moments were a bit surreal.
Yeah.
And then some of the body power moments where you had queues for people coming to try and see you who waited for 6-7 hours in a queue.
I want to get into all of that. And I know some people listening may be going, Mike, this is such a random start. You're talking about impact already. But I find it so fascinating. And because I guess it's still fresh off my mind because I was having a chat about it yesterday, it's why I just thought I would get your perspective on that. Because perhaps a good place to start, as you've kind of said, is that, in fact, where are you right now? Where am I speaking to you from? Because I know you travel around quite a bit.
I'm home. I've been sick last week, so I've been keeping myself inside.
Yeah, and where's home for you?
So I'm in Shrewsbury, in the land of rolling hills and crumpets.
What's that? What's Shrewsbury? Is that where Robin Hood's from?
That's Nottingham. That's not even close.
What?
Shrewsbury is West Midlands, so we're right on the border. If you would take the border of Wales, we're bang in the middle of it, just offset into the UK.
Yeah,
it's gorgeous. It's just rolling hills, trees, countryside, and loveliness.
So, did you grow up there, or was that a decision you made?
So I grew up beyond the wall, up north. Yeah. So
Game of Thrones reference there.
Yeah, you know nothing. So yeah, I grew up in it was called the Ribble Valley. So it's kind of Clitheroe, Blackburn, all that area. Went to school there, then went to university in Newcastle, and then dropped back down, came back, lived in Ribble Valley for a few years, then lived in Manchester city centre for a while, then moved back to the countryside in the Ribble Valley again, and then when work became... So when it all started, we would just travel everywhere, and everyone was for everything, and everything was everywhere.
Who's we, by the way?
With Gymshark. So obviously I started working more and more as I was online. I got picked up by... I was Gymshark's very first athlete, essentially.
Amazing.
And so I worked with them through the early years, of going and getting the brand exposure, and obviously we would travel all here, there, and everywhere at the time. So it didn't really matter where you were based. But then as things have kind of closed in a little bit more, and it's a little bit less sporadic, and the company's got bigger and bigger, and obviously social media's got bigger and much more corporate, things are much more organized now, and everything was kind of starting to twist towards Birmingham and London. And I was always going Birmingham, London. So I just decided, well, there was a point that came where I was done with being beyond the wall. I was done with that area. Yeah. Well, it genuinely, yeah. I used to argue against this, but I've moved now. Obviously, I'm bang in the middle of England, and the weather here is so much better. Like, everyone comes down, all my boys come down on the motorbikes from up north, and like, oh, it's been rubbish this week. I'm like, what are you on about? It's been glorious sunshine. I've been out on the bike like every day. They're like, what? And it's only 80 miles difference. But yeah, so I decided to move to Shrewsbury because it's that happy balance of my liking of how I want to live in terms of having the countryside near me. I've done the city living. I don't need all that noise. Like, I was there for 4 years. It never shuts up. And the weird thing about the cities is you love being there, but in the winter everything's really freaking cold, and in the summer, and obviously not as bustling because you can't do things outside. And then in the summer it gets so bloody hot, you just want to go out of the city to get into the countryside because it's too freaking warm. So there's not a good, for me, the cities. Yeah, there's not that middle ground. Whereas here, I'm in Shrewsbury. It's offset from Birmingham, but there's real easy train links into London, which is where I went the other week for a private gig. Thought I was cool. Went to the gig, got sick. Been out for a week.
So like, what is the sickness exactly?
It's not even like, I just got a goddamn when we're also focused on COVID and everything's going around, and flu is just like na 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 na. And because we've all been in lockdown and basically bubble wrapping our immune systems, kick my ass.
Yeah.
Did I have all the over stuff in 3 days? This knocked me out for 3 days, but then it's the residual little after effects, because I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to go to the gym and give it to anyone else. I don't want to be that dick, So somebody said to you, "What? How do you train through sickness?" I said, "Well, you don't go to the gym when you're sick. Number one, don't be that guy." So
I think people listening around now are going, because there's times I've definitely been sick and went to the gym. You make
but there's different levels of sickness. Like this one, this is clearly a full on. This is the flu season coming in, and this was the flu. I got it. It was on the news. Apparently, it's been going around like bad. And loads of my mates. I went down to London with one of my good friends who I do the podcast with, Mr. Lewis, who owns Black Country Barbell, and he has had to go on antibiotics for it. It knocked him sideways as it got on his chest. Luckily, I didn't have that.
It is funny, like you saying that we've been so hyper focused on COVID that the idea that you could still get sick from other things is kind of like novel to people. So I had a friend recently, he was coughing, and I was convinced he had COVID. Now he's double vaccinated. He was saying it's not COVID, but I was like, "You've got COVID." And then he just ran. He was like, "There's like a million other things I can get." And I thought, "Oh yeah."
And you were just, "There's only one. There's only one thing."
I'm like, "There's only one." I love the city. The countryside, because I moved from London to Manchester to live in Manchester for about 7 years. I'm back in.
Is that where you are now?
No, I'm in London now, so I've actually moved back home.
I thought I didn't think you were there. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's crazy because for me, Manchester was kind of like the countryside. Compared to London.
Compared to London, any old bench is the countryside.
Literally, it was slower. It was beautiful, and I take your point. I think it's so beautiful being in the countryside, being somewhere where, I mean, for one, I bet people aren't queuing for petrol where you live. Right. So I don't. Yeah. Just for everybody listening, I do not watch news. Right. I get when I want to know something, I'll go online and look at the impartial views of things as best I can. But it's so negative. Like the news is just propaganda these days. I mean, it's just whatever gets clicks. And it's frustrating. If I watch the news every day, I genuinely get angry at the world and humans.
That 100% I get, because it warps your view on what's actually going on in the world. Yet, like I just told you before, like you said, there's, over 1 million subscribers and all these things, and all I get is positive messages about realistically negative subjects, and I'm getting positive messages on that because I'm putting out positivity. If all you do is watch the news and listen to the nonsense that they want you to, that's what's going to happen, is you're going to have this negative outlook on the world, which you can then take out into the world with you. And I just think the whole media side of things, the way it's just so unmoderated drives me crackers, because it's such, like, for every stabbing we see, for every crisis we see, how about we hear about the stuff of somebody who got rescued by another human being, someone who was pulled out of a car by somebody else who was rescued, or maybe just somebody who's raised £10,000 to get some kid an operation that's now going to change his life, and did it for no other reason other than they had the ability to do so. This is happening every single day as well alongside it. But these people, like you said, which I didn't know, are all panic buying for petrol again. They're all following the Chinese whispers, aren't they? It's all happening again. This is where it all spurred from the beginning with the toilet paper rush.
Yeah.
But you just think we've learned. But
yeah, I totally get that. I think you're right not to watch as much news as you watch. Sorry, not to watch news. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. That would get me in trouble. I think you're right.
Not to watch all the news and assume it's all true.
Yeah, because I'm on the other side. Like, I watch everything. Obviously we create news ourselves, and you're right. Like, you do have to do a lot of work to find balance, but also, as you said, news stories that kind of that give you a different narrative as to what's happening in the world. Because if you do obsess over this is a point that I think was well labored during the COVID coverage. The fact that we have a daily death count for COVID is really odd to me, because we could it's
not even a true death count. It's not even true.
There's people who died with COVID. And
within 28 within 28 days. It's ridiculous. It's nonsense. How is that an accurate depiction of what's going on? If they had COVID within 28 days of them dying, how is it they died? A bear trap to the face, COVID. Yeah, definitely. What are you on about? Where's the common sense gone? It's just and everyone's just, what gets me is everyone's been put in such a panic that everyone's just zombieing along. Okay, put it down as COVID death, must do as told. And like now I'm going to cause problems here for many people.
In that case, let me get you a solo layout. There you go.
Solo layout, right? Why are you wearing a mask? Do we not recall at the beginning of this pandemic, we all argued against the fact that the masks don't stop the virus without the filter system in there, the P whatever filter thing it is, which nobody seems. Everyone's just made to wear paper masks again, and everyone's like, must wear the mask. Just under 2 years ago, we're all like, what are you on about? These masks are useless and actually cause more problems because you're constantly touching your face and touching other things. But now they've been so fear-mongered that 18 months later, everyone's like, must put mask on. And these are the same people that argued with it 2 years ago because the science proved they're ineffective. So it just goes to show how people have been affected over COVID by the kind of the propaganda side of things and not being shown the realities of what's going on. The realities of what's going on is they're making kids wear masks in schools when more people are dying from flu than COVID. Yet when there's a flu epidemic, which we have every couple of years, maybe every year if you were to argue it one way, at no point is it mandatory for kids to wear masks in schools during flu season.
I guess one of the reasons I've seen argue. I mean, you're right about the weaponization of science, for instance. I really hear when people go, "Well, it's the science." I'm like, well, you got to do a bit more to flesh that out for me. However, folks would say what the masks do is kind of raise the level of kind of public health consciousness, if you like. So people feel
raise the level of fear. Or reduce the time it takes us to get back to normalcy, because it's a constant reminder. Like I just, you've got it. For me, I'm a biologist by nature, so the real statistics and the scientists who are showing certain things. That's where I go for everything. I think that's where we have to go. Everything needs to be taken back to a base. And I don't want to go on about COVID on this podcast because I'm sure you've done it far too many times already. So, and I think it's
on the news all the time.
For me, on a personal level, when I walk down the street and see somebody wearing a mask in the street who's clearly a healthy person, one makes me a little bit sad because I feel like they've been fear-mongered into that feeling that they have to do that. And two, also, like, I look at them and just think you're uneducated on what you're doing, because that is literally pointless, what you're doing. And you clearly don't understand why, and it's because they're not shown the realities of where we're at.
Although I would say to fly the flag for the other side. Some folks would say, "Well, hold on, I wear it because I don't know if I have COVID. I may be asymptomatic, and I don't want to pass it on. And masks do in some way, stop me from passing it on." They're not foolproof. They're not foolproof. Of course, they're literally
they are. You can't argue that. Basically like. It's basically wearing a mask is like throwing water at a metal fence for the virus. It's not a barrier in any way. The only thing it's a barrier for is your own phlegm if you're coughing stuff up, whatever. I don't know. Yeah, if you're sick, I understand it. But if you're a healthy human being walking around, you don't need to be doing that shit. Like, and you don't need to be scared. You don't need to be scared. What I don't want is people to be scared to go outside and get back to living their lives. And I think that's what people are still at the moment. And I think that's a big thing. So to get fucking off that, because you're very political with it, I'm not, and I'm not here with a notepad of statistical analysis to go through things with, which I would need to prove my point.
Well, you're right, but I'm not political with it, because my main interest, right, is balance, and I think you said it right, balance. But to get off it, you just picked up your phone, and on your phone is a very muscular person.
That's a drawing someone did of me for me.
Wow. I mean,
it's cool, isn't it?
That vein's protruding quite a bit.
Yeah, that is a loyal vein. It's always here. It's just as loyal as anything.
Let's talk about fitness, because
that's what I was going to get back onto is the fact that one of the things that we did lose through this whole pandemic situation is people's ability to go and exercise to the levels they were. And I think what we found through this time is the impact we didn't really know. Exercise and that freedom to go and push our physical boundaries, the positive effect it has on our lives. And so I think of all the bad things that COVID's created, I think there's a number of really, really, really good things that have come out of it. One was seeing the earth heal in such a quick way, in such a short time, how quickly the earth kind of healed itself for all the nonsense we do. And then the anger of how quickly we trashed it again because we're a bunch of morons. But, hey ho, at least we know the earth can do that. But two was the fact that people started to focus a little bit more on themselves and because they were trapped inside, they were much more aware, I can't move anywhere. Then they actively started to make themselves move a bit more, realized that made them feel a bit better. Well, I feel better just from moving. All right, how much more moving can I do? Then they actually started bringing, a lot more people started to exercise because they weren't having to go to a gym where they maybe felt a little insecure about going in there because they thought people were looking at them. Just tell you one thing now, if you go to a gym, ain't nobody looking at you. There's nobody looking at you. Everyone is too busy getting on, trying to make themselves better at what they're doing. So do not worry about other people whenever you want to go to a gym. And if somebody is looking at you at the gym, screw that person, because in about 6 months' time, when you've put your head down and put work in, that dude will still look the same and you'll look better. And then eventually over time, that dude who's staring at you will come and ask you questions about how you did what you did because you didn't spend your time staring at other people.
And that's the thing about the gym that's so, because most people, and we'll talk about you in a minute, but most people aren't extreme. I want to get my body beat. They just want to go. But then the thing is that and you can speak to this because obviously you're a personal trainer, right? You have people who want to get fit and they have every intention in the world to get fit, but the idea that you can't just go to the gym and cash in that desire for the body.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that do just go to the gym, like literally, they drive to the gym and go there, but they don't work when they're in there. Sit all the time. And it baffles me because if you've taken the effort to get up, get in a car, drive to the gym, walk through the doors and get in there, spend 45 minutes of that time off your damn phone, detach and use that time, whether you're kicking your own ass or just going, through quite an ergonomic workout, whatever it is, just use that time for detachment. And I see a lot of people come into the gym and they're still attached to these damn things. And you can see it affect their training because they're not detaching from what's going on outside. And I think one of the biggest things that a gym allows, whether, like you said, it doesn't have to be extreme. It's a place where you can completely just detach. It's almost meditative in its nature, because you can take away, let all those worries of the day go, and you focus on one thing: that weight in front of you, that movement in front of you. That's it, and you start to learn to just, you breathe, focus, recover, breathe, focus, recover, and achieve things as you go. Those weights start to move a little easier as thing goes on. It's a very positive place to be if you let it be or make it. But if you go to the gym seeing it as a chore or something, then it becomes, you start to take it for, I think that's what a lot of people did, and they started to take it for granted because it became part of their day as a chore. Because a lot of people, as in life, whenever we do something, we get kind of stuck in ruts. So one of the biggest things I'd say, if you do want to go to the gym, or you kind of think you're getting a bit fed up of it, is you don't have to go in and do some cookie cutter program. Just go in and do what you enjoy and do what's going to give you the most. And it doesn't have to be a gym, which is one of the things I want, whether it be a kickboxing school or an aerobics class or cycling club, anything active. I mean, it doesn't have to be a gym. You're
banging the money about the class, because for the first time, so I've been like, my relationship with gym, I actually hate the gym, just to put it out there, mainly because I started there when I was young. I think I was like in year 7 when I first went to a gym, and I was doing indoor rowing because I was a rower for a while. Then I was a sprinter. Then I was a sprinter for a long time. So I went gym, and gym was just a place where I felt like vomiting after doing way too many deadlifts. Then, so I have a kind of love-hate relationship with the gym. But for the first time ever, about 2 months ago, I joined a class. It's called Blaze at David Lloyd, right? So it's one of these kind of, and I used to walk past
like a hit workout kind of thing.
Yeah. I used to walk past it, look at them, and just scoff like, "Oh, give me a break." These people aren't serious, is what I used to think. And then I joined them, and it kicked my butt. The first day, I was like, "What?"
Dude, I went to Pilates with a bunch of grandmas, dude. I'm not joking. Actual, full-on, fully fledged grandmas. Dude, I'm holding a warrior pose, like, yes, yeah. And the woman's like, hips through. I'm going, yeah. Hands are going like, yeah. And next to me is a nana going, yes, you're doing well. Twist right foot forward. I was just like, humbling was a word for it. And it just shows. We get good at what we get good at. And then if you don't spread out and realize there's these other avenues, you will get bored and you will get kind of stuck in one rut. There's so much you can do. I don't like that. Cool. There's other shit. Go and do it.
That's so. I love that, because that's exactly what I do. A lot of HIIT in the gym, anyways. Like, I'll do lots of circuits, and you think you're fit until you do an exercise your body's not used to. And like when I went to that class, there was a woman that was like next to me that I was watching like a hawk, because when I was like, when my knees were buckled, and she was just up and down and I was thinking, how the hell is she? Like, I looked at her and thought, there's no way. And then, so the next class, I make sure I got the one next to her, and I was just watching.
Just trying to stay paced.
Just trying to stay paced. And it's funny because we laugh about this, but for me, it's why fitness, I think, is so important, because you learn so much about yourself when you're moving. Right. So what would you say to someone who's out there going, you know what, okay, cool, COVID, I put on a bit of weight, I'm not happy with my body, or I'm just don't feel I'm as healthy as I can be. Yeah. But do I really need to move?
Yes. Yeah. Even if it wasn't for weight loss, we need to move just for the heart and lungs. The healthier your heart and lungs are, the better of a machine you are, which means the easier it is going to be for you to drop weight, maintain a weight that you're happy with, gain muscle, live a more active and energetic lifestyle. Whether you sit, dude, I've been sat, I feel like an absolute pancake after sitting around all this week. I feel horrible. Even my mentality changed. I got really low because I just wasn't moving. My energy levels dropped. I'm not moving. In theory, I should have tons of energy because I haven't moved. I've got none because I'm not moving. I'm not creating that energy. And you do, one of the biggest sayings that I've been pushing recently is you've got to make your own energy. And it's so true. Every person you see who's up and about and energetic, that's not easy for them. They make the choice to do that every day, and they make the choice to make the energy to do that. But the more that they do that, the more it becomes a habit, and the easier it gets, and the more that they derive from it in terms of an energy pool. And one of the biggest things I think that sets people back is that they do something for a week and they see no change. Biggest thing you can have in any venture is realistic timelines. Don't set yourself up for failure. So if you don't think in days and weeks, think in weeks and months, even months and years. especially when it comes to changing your body. And if you have that and you just take little wins over time, lots of little wins will build up to a big end result. And people just need to remember, it's not a big win, big win, big win. It's lots of little things consistently over time that create these big changes. And
you must get this all the time. How long have you been training for?
Yeah, so I've always been doing sports ever since I was a kid. That's one of my things. It was my mum used to send me out on a bike ride every time I got tetchy, because I just, she knew that was where my kind of energy flow went. It didn't go into sitting down and reading and doing things, always being more active. So I went through school doing lots of sports, for football, basketball, even went into rugby as I went through the later years of college into uni. And then from there, I went into fighting, and obviously I did MMA for about five years.
I find that, so this is so interesting to me, because MMA, and I'm someone who I combat sports, I can just about do boxing. But MMA, when someone's on the floor and then someone's like elbowing their head, I'm like, whoa.
Elbows finish fights. Like, you punch somebody 10 times in the head, you drop 2 elbows, that ref's stopping that fight. Elbows are savage. I mean, you just got this big, sharp, pointy bit of bone here.
What do you think about, when people launch like the criticisms, like it's just too violent? What do you say about that?
Here's a real thing. In boxing, what are the 2 ways that you win? Knockout.
Knockout, yeah.
Or points, yeah? So, TKO, knockout, we'll call them the same thing, or points. So, and most boxing matches are like 8 to 10 rounds. So you can go 8 to 10 rounds of getting teed off in the own, and boxing is only hitting in the head and body as well. So you go for 8 to 10 rounds of getting continually punched in the face, pretty much. And if you don't get knocked out, you keep getting punched in the head all the way through up until 10 rounds is over, and then points win it. MMA, there is probably 100 different ways you can lose a fight, because it's everything. So the fact of the strikes to the head ratios compared to boxing and other sports, competitive sports, is actually way lower. And in that sense, when you talk about CTE and violence towards,
what's CTE for folks who don't know?
So CTE is it's where the brain tissue develops scar tissue from constant barrages and concussions can cause it. American football players, anyone who's doing contact sport over time, constant hits, constant strikes to the head, or even vibrations through the head, they're thinking now, what it does is it causes damage to the brain tissue, which then develops scar tissue in the brain, which stops the brain functioning as it should. It can lead to lots of psychosis. It can lead to, it tends to lead negatively. It tends to lead people into depression, suicidal thoughts, anger issues. And we see it a lot now in retired American footballers, and not even that now, we're seeing it earlier and earlier in people who are currently still, American footballers especially is the big one that people have seen, because it was hidden for so long by the NFL. And we're seeing that some of these guys...
You're saying that MMA has less of that, essentially?
Yeah, I think MMA is actually less dangerous in terms of your long-term health than something like just Thai boxing, things where it's all just strikes and no takedowns. The takedowns, a lot of the times we see, that someone will take a couple of punches to the head and it doesn't look great, but a lot of times it's... there's a lot of safeguarding there, and even though they look like being struck to the head, they're tucking away, they're moving, they're able to guard. You can go for submissions. A lot of people are always going for submissions. There's just so many more avenues of attack within MMA that it's not solely focused on head and head hunting. A lot of guys. I mean, you can lose an MMA match and never take a strike.
Yeah, but that's because you've been pummeled in the face.
No, you never take a strike because you've been taken down to the floor and then submitted or choked out. You see what I mean? So you can lose a match never even taking a punch. And as well, I think they're a bit more proactive, sometimes too proactive in stopping fights when someone does take too many unanswered shots. Whereas in boxing, they get a 10 count and you go back in, lad. There's no 10 counts in MMA. There's no 10 counts in MMA. There's none of the stopping it and standing them back up in MMA. It's once you're done, you're done.
So you said you did it for 5 years.
Yeah, so I started. I was working in security, so I've had a varied life. So I came out.
I did it my way.
Dude, I've gone from fighting in MMA to owning a bakery which specializes in cupcakes and wedding cakes. Like, I've done underpants modeling. for Harvey Nichols. So I've been in their windows in a store in just pants. Yeah. I've been in music videos in my pants. There's a theme here, isn't there? Me in my pants for most of my life.
I was going to say, I think the jobs are more similar than you think. But
it leads towards always
were you baking in your pants as well?
Yeah, no baking. They frown upon that, surprisingly, when they come round to check. Yeah, baking in pants is not one of the tick boxes. But this is all because I just take opportunities that come my way, and I have a go, at things that could be. And everything that I've done is always, I feel now, has led me to where I am. So had I missed and not taken those opportunities through, fear of what other people thought or anything, I would not be now doing what I do, which essentially is a blessing. Really, I mean, I could be stuck in an office 9 to 5, which doesn't function well with my mentality, and I would be struggling there. Whereas now, when I have a struggle, it's under my own. It's under my own level of stress that I've created for myself, not that somebody else is putting on me as such. And being your own boss in that sense is way more indicative to the way my brain functions, and being able to deal with things my way rather than being told you have to do things this way. Yeah. And I've lived my life like that. Like, you have to do this. Anything I've ever been told you have to do this. I've always ended up going back the other way anyway, even though I followed that you should do this. Like, I went to university and did, I went through A-levels doing biology, chemistry, maths, but I was freaking art. I loved art. Art was my passion, really. As a kid, I used to just draw all the time. But you were never thought, this doesn't really get you a real job. What gets you a real job is those core subjects. So, I was pushed towards those, and I enjoyed biology. So I went that way. I've done 2 biology degrees, and yet I still come back to, I've still ended up doing content creation. Yeah. So I think if you're true to whatever you believe in yourself, you will always end up on the path you should be on. My goal now is to just get people on it quicker than I got on it.
Yeah, because they don't waste those years.
Yeah, I mean, they're never a waste. I don't think anything's ever a waste, because it's all a lesson. And you've always had great experiences, even if it wasn't the best path. There's always been some great experiences on the way, and people you've met and things you've learned now will help you in your new path or new chosen way. I don't think there's ever a waste. I mean, I've gone through some really shitty situations, but after allowing them to pass and they don't affect me now directly, they've indirectly affected who I am now as a person, which actually has made me way stronger and actually way more, what would be the word? Way more, not open, that's the wrong word. Way more, I have the ability to be able to see bad things coming way earlier now because I've already experienced them. So I'm more aware, I guess is the best way to use it. Yeah, you're more aware of when something's going to go awry, and you're able to avoid it way easier. And you don't get to be that way unless you've experienced it previously. And I think a lot of the things at the moment is people want everything to be given to them to be a success and nothing to have to be a failure. And they think that people who are in a successful position, whether it be with their body, with their mind, with their business, have just got there with none of these issues that they're dealing with. What they don't understand is that those people got through those issues, pushed through them, found answers to how to fix them, and now that's why they're where they are. So nothing's ever a waste. And but this is all my whole argument just with the COVID thing is I think, we've gone through a horrible situation, but we've had tons of lovely things that have happened from it. And the fitness side of things, I think the fitness industry's done well from it. In terms of people being more aware of that, moving and being proactive and just making themselves get up and do something feels great. It feels like a really productive, successful thing that you've done, not only in your mind, but physically afterwards, you're going to feel great because you literally release endorphins when you train that make you feel happy, which is why you kind of crave it again afterwards. It's much better than a cigarette.
No, definitely. I think what I love about why I think you're so different, because I think, folks listening to this now or watching may, always have judgments they make of fitness people. Like, you guys are like, oh, fitness, oh, weights. And it's like, yeah. But I think what's so amazing about you beyond like fitness is like you also talk about mental toughness and not just kind of looking great, but feeling great. And that's how we met. We both met during, what was it now? I should remember.
The Slater's men's health campaign.
That's the one.
Yeah.
you just said
I was the dude in the pink waistcoat.
Yeah. I was wearing some random suit.
You were wearing the grey not check.
I couldn't pull off checked. I was wearing. You know what happened? I actually wanted to go like really nice, and then I just couldn't find something, so I just wore all black.
No, your problem was that you were too thick. You were too thick. for the trousers. They
Chickens,
didn't do. You were just too bootylicious. That was the problem. for the ladies that don't know, you got something going on down there. You know what I'm saying?
You said bootylicious.
Bootylicious.
I haven't heard that in a long time. Thankfully, but before we end, I think it would be great for you to talk or speak at least to that mental toughness and how you and the times you've gone through kind of, get you.
Dude, here's the thing with it is that for me as well, especially with training, is but going through the fight game, that is mental toughness, dude. I got to a decent level, I was able to fight at a professional level. I don't think I'd ever been a world champion, it just
why?
Just because of the way the sport was going that I was in, it was becoming very ground based. And those guys were starting to dominate, and my brain was far too much in the moment all the time. Whereas when you're a jiu-jitsu guy wrestler, they're always 2 or 3 moves ahead with variations, or they're pushing you in a direction, and if you block that direction, they've already got another one in which they're going to go in. I could never kind of get my mindset into that. I just wanted to bang. You know what I mean? I was just like, I'm going to get up and I'm going to get you. So I was good. I had heavy hands. I liked throwing elbows and knees. I was a Thai boxer, was where I started. I liked doing that. I could take an arm or a limb if you gave it to me, but it wasn't my forte. And I think I was very aware that whenever I came up against these, I was training with world-class athletes. Like I trained with Michael Bisping. I was training with the Sinclair brothers, who went on to, Rob Sinclair went on to be the BAMA lightweight, I think it's lightweight champion. Very, very cerebral fighters. And I trained with some other guys. One got Gary Boardman up in Manchester. He's a well-known guy. These dudes were just so intellectual when it came to that ground game. I just felt really out of my depth there, and I was also very aware I didn't really want to get punched in my face for a living in something that I wasn't 100%. It's still a dangerous game. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's safe. Like, there's my nose bends one way and not the other really easily from being cracked. I broke ribs. I have little twigglies when I look at the sunshine. From basically sparring hard. There's lots, but it was such a good learning curve in terms of the mental toughness that you need. I learned in the toughest of training sessions that if you have somebody screaming at you to keep going, who believes in you and you believe in them, you will keep fucking going even when you are done, because it's your brain is saying stop because you're reaching a boundary, but your body's capable of so much more. It's just a safety mechanism. So when you've got somebody, when you hit your boundary, that says no, more, we got another minute because I know you can do it, then and you do it, you realize holy shit,
getting pumped, Lex. I'm getting pumped.
But you realize it. But you realize you're like, damn, that there's more in me. And then if you are able to take that voice that somebody else gave you and make it your own voice in your own head, dude, you can become a fucking world beater.
And I'm not saying that you are. So I was a sprinter, again, very decent level, national, and did some international comps. And there were times where like I would be training, and anyone who knows sprinting, like there's times where your body's like, you're done, and I'm literally vomiting. And my coach would like tap me like, all right, finish that because you got another set, whatever. And I'm kind of like, that's impossible. I'm gonna die, kind of thing, right? Yeah. But then here's what's crazy. I do it, and I finish, and I look at the puddle of like nonsense that I did in the corner, and I'm like, that was just a lie. Like it felt very real at the time. There's times where I think sport is like a cult, because there's times where like you're on the floor like, why am I doing this? I'm done. I'm never doing this again. This is a waste of my time. And then like you're like, see you next week, coach. And like a few minutes after.
After you've been, honestly, I get like leathered because I got a fight coming up, and they just beat me like left, right, and center for 45 minutes of sparring. And I just be dying there, feeling like I didn't even get a shot in. And then the guy who just uppercutted you really well and made the room spin comes up and goes, bloody good session, that Lex. You caught me with a good few. You're like, when amidst the room spinning did I catch you? Because all you're focusing on is the bad. But when you look back at it, you think, damn, I got through some stuff. And it does it. And that mental attitude can get you through so much. And I'm not saying that, you'll have those days where you feel like you're a fucking world eater. Like you come out and you'll be flying high. Everything in the world's brilliant. 2 days later, that energy level could just boom, plummet out. And there are big highs, come big lows. So there's no crest without a drop beneath it. Everything in life, nothing is ever going to keep doing this. Life is a constant wave of up and downs. But it's just, you just have to be aware of that. And the moment you're aware that when you're really high, soon there's going to be a bit of a low coming, but it'll be fine because you're aware of it. And when it comes, you're like, here it is. And you just get through it and you get back up and you start building that crest again. And that's the thing I think that fitness can really do, is it can show people what they're capable of when they just keep committing and keep pushing and don't stop when the brain says stop. And I think it's really important people understand, no matter how long you've been doing something, no matter how good someone looks like they are at something, they have days where they feel like they can't do it.
That's right.
But you always can if you just step through it. And I'm talking myself up here to get my ass back in the gym after a week off. That's what I'm actually doing.
I'm so pumped right now. Like in my head, I'm thinking we have to do another, because there's so much I want to get into, but that we don't have time for. Like, so we do this again.
Yeah, we can do it again. Well, you can come up here and stay and do mine as well.
Yeah, I would love to. I think we've got to, because there's so much. Like the thing I think, if I'm honest, I think what you've done today is really just motivate me to get back in the gym. and
myself.
And it so happens that we have an audience, but that's it. Like this is really
this is all I do.
A phone call.
I just do shit that makes me want to do stuff and hope that me saying it out loud to the people makes them as well. And it does. It seems to work. But that's because this is a strength of community, though. Yeah. You know, and this is and having people around you of a similar mindset. And I'm very, that's what a lot of people neglect. They feel a certain way, but they're hanging around with essentially people that aren't of the same mindset, aren't of the same drive, and then wonder why their drive never gets elevated. And one of the biggest things I say to people is, look at the people around you. Are they stoking the flames or are they pissing on them? Because if they're not stoking the flames of your fire, you need to find a new group. And it's fine to not know tons of people. You only need 2 or 3 good people around you.
I love this. I love this so much. I think what's so good about communicating is sometimes people will vocalize and use words to kind of capture thoughts you have, but you haven't quite put in, you haven't arranged. And I think that's what you did a few minutes ago there. Like it was like a boom for me, because I thought, that's that thing I know to be true. But it's kind of cerebral and nebulous in my head.
It just gets caught in the gray. Yeah,
you've turned it into words, and that was powerful. Listen, Lex, I wanna be respectful of your time. We obviously have to do this again. Like
we've gone long.
But this was great, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
If you had to leave the listeners or viewers with one Lex message, what would it be?
Worry less, adventure more, and remember, you're always going to make your own energy. So use what you have to put back into yourself, because if you don't look after you can't look after others. So make yourself a priority. I think a lot of people neglect that recently.
Wow. And that's all, folks.